Uh-oh.
Up in her last two fights. Good way hitting him from that way down.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The latest set of updates to the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list as a result of this weekend's contest between former pound-for-pound ranked fighter Terry Harper, two-division champion Terry Harper, and Sandy Ryan, who stopped her over 4 rounds.
Previously, Terry was ranked at number 8.
For beating Eva Wahlstrom some years ago for the WBC title at 130 pounds. A couple of years later, she moves all the way up there to 154 and beats Hannah Rankin for her WBA title. This weekend, she ran into a wall, and that wall's name was Sandy Ryan, who forced her to retire in her corner after just 4 rounds, bumping her off the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list per the rules that govern it.
The list is only for winners and only for champions. No fighter coming right off a loss is allowed to maintain a spot. And in beating a pound-for-pound fighter, you become one yourself.
Thus, Sandy Ryan comes in at number 10 in the most danger of being bumped off the list, as she did beat a pound-for-pound fighter and effectively became one herself, but that doesn't make her as accomplished as unified champion Marlen Esparza, who's ranked at number 9, or unified champion Jessica Neri Plata, who's now ranked at number 8.
They moved up one spot as a result of Terry Harper being bumped off.
And so, Sandy Ryan joins the elite pantheon of fighters, the elite pantheon of female champions in the sport, what is a very short list, but it's not the only update it's going to see in the near future. Very soon, at minimum weight, unified champions Senicia Estrada and Yo Costavalle will be vying for undisputed status at their own weight, minimum weight, and the winner of the fight, whoever it is, will advance ahead of Alicia Baumgartner, who's currently ranked at number 4.
Why?
Well, even though Alicia is a current reigning undisputed champion at her own weight, the winner of this fight will in effect become undisputed as well, having been a champion at more weights than Alicia. Alicia's only ever been a champion at 1 weight. Senicia's been a champion in 2. Yo Costavalle has been a champion in 3.
Already.
They become undisputed. They will match Alicia's undisputed claim, but have been a champion at more weights than Alicia, giving them the precedence to move ahead of her. That's as it pertains to the winner of the fight. The loser of the fight gets bumped off, creating a vacancy that another fighter, another champion, can then occupy.
Champions in the queue.
There is Germany's own 2-division champion, Tina Ruprecht, who has been a champion at both minimum weight and currently reigns as a champion at atom weight. There is also Denmark's own 2-division champion, Dina Thorsland.
She's reigned as a champion at 122, and currently she reigns as a unified champion at 118.
There is also 2-time unified light flyweight champion Evelyn Bermudez to consider, but you see what I mean. There are champions in the queue, other fighters that deserve to be ranked on this list, but aren't there yet. Once the outcome of Estrada versus Valle is decided, and the loser gets bumped off, that will create a vacancy that one of those champions can then occupy.
There's really no wrong answer when it comes to those 3.
But for now, these are the current updates to the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list as a result of her demolition job this past weekend over Terry Harper, who used to be ranked at number 8. Sandy Ryan is now ranked at number 10.
To move further up the list, it's going to take more.
Maybe a unification match with Natasha Jonas, who's currently ranked at number 7. I don't think it's likely, but if she were fortunate enough to get her in the ring and beat her, that would move her up the list, as well as a unification match with the winner of the upcoming Lauren Price versus Jessica McCaskill fight.
Same deal.
If she were fortunate enough to get the winner of that fight in the ring and she beat them, that would move her up the list, as well as moving up in weight. If things dry up at 147 and she can't land a big fight, a big name, she can move up to 154, see about becoming a champion up there, and that would also move her up the list.
I happen to think Sandy could do very well for herself at 154.
She has the physical dimensions to fill out at that weight. Better than Terry Harper did, better than Natasha Jonas did. She has the natural size that they didn't have, and if they could become champions up there, then so could Sandy.
She's got the size, she's got the ceiling. I happen to think she's already a better fighter than most fighters you find at 154.
More skills, more talent, and the size to boot. But right now, 147 is a hotter division with more familiar faces, so let's see what she can land at 147 before she goes up to 154.
Congratulations to her.
Men's super lightweight news ahead of what's supposed to be the Ryan Garcia fight. A Twitter user that goes by the name 973sports asked Devin Haney, do you plan on going for undisputed at 140? I see you want Tio next. To which Devin Haney responded, at first I didn't plan to, but now, yes, I want undisputed.
Can he do it?
The way it breaks down, Teofimo's got the WBO, Rolly Romero's got the WBA, though not for long. That's likely going to change hands and go to Isaac. I think Isaac's going to stop him. And Subriel Matias, he's got the IBF.
Right.
Provided that the Ryan Garcia fight actually happens and Devin actually has it, I have Devin Haney beating Ryan Garcia in lopsided fashion. I have Devin Haney potentially stopping Ryan Garcia. And after that, I think the most sensible choice for Ryan would be a Teofimo Lopez fight.
Why?
Well, if the fight with Ryan actually happens, I anticipate that it will do more robust numbers than Devin Haney's last two pay-per-views, the one with Lomachenko and the more recent one with Regis Prograis. Even though Ryan is nowhere near as skilled or accomplished as those fighters, he is popular, and that will lend itself to the fight's overall buy rate. Thus, I think Haney versus Garcia is going to do good numbers, and that gives Devin leverage in a set of negotiations with Teofimo, who is still on the top-ranked side of things. He's still over there. A fight between Devin and Teofimo would have more of a profile than, say, a fight between Devin and Subriel Matias, who's right there on the matchroom side of things.
To my knowledge, Devin, at this time, has no commitment to Matchroom and no commitment to the zone, so he would be free to go back over to the top-ranked side of things and then make that fight.
Stylistically, Devin has the advantage, in my opinion. He would also have the advantage over Gervonta Davis.
Gervonta's down at 135. What's he got to do with anything?
Well, the winner of the Romero versus Cruz fight, they're not going to unify titles with Devin. They're going to try to get a rematch with Gervonta, and they might get it, at which point they get beat again. He becomes WBA champion at 140 pounds, and by that time,
Put your thinking caps on, kids.
I think Devin Haney beats Ryan Garcia. I think afterwards, if he fights Teofimo, he'll beat him, and by that time, he may have more of a profile and considerable marquee value that Gervonta Davis may have to consider.
Why?
Well, this upcoming fight that he's about to have with Frank Martin, I don't think that's going to bring in much at the box office. Even with the addition of the Benavidez versus Vosdick fight, I don't think that's going to sell but so many pay-per-views.
He can go in there with the winner of Romero versus Cruz, fight whoever wins that fight for a second time, but that's not going to sell but so many pay-per-views.
Nowhere near what he sold with Ryan Garcia, nowhere near. So, in that situation, if Gervonta Davis wants to make serious money and make a serious bag, do some serious numbers, he might have to see Devin.
He might.
By that time, we'll have been in there with Ryan Garcia. We'll have been in there with Teofimo Lopez, potentially. If he beats him, that will amplify Devin's marquee value, his profile, his drawing power.
You think Devin beats both Teofimo and Gervonta?
I do. Gervonta Davis and Teofimo Lopez are both boxer punchers, counter punchers. They're more similar than people realize. What they like to do is hang back and walk the guy into a shot, a hard shot, and then move in.
It's where they're similar.
Where they're different is that Teofimo's an orthodox fighter, whereas Gervonta, he's a southpaw. Teofimo's a little bit more herky-jerky.
Fidgety.
Whereas Gervonta's a little bit more tempered, a little bit more smooth. I think Gervonta might be a bit more comfortable coming forward than Teofimo. Just a smidge.
You know, because Teofimo coming forward is quite vulnerable.
That's where they're different. Those subtleties. But they do share the same base style, and they both have an affinity for counterpunching, which wouldn't do them any favors opposite the ring Devin Haney, who's a pure boxer,
Yes.
who's taller than both,
Yes.
longer than both, and more comfortable
Yes.
at this weight than he was at 135.
More durable.
Stronger, too. Is he as strong a puncher as they are? Well, perhaps not. Maybe not. Maybe they do have enough power that if they land on Devin, they can hurt him. But he'll make it so where they don't get to land on him. They don't get to deliver their power shots because they're shorter, stumpier fighters than he is that rely on the other guy making a mistake so they can move in.
He won't.
He'll keep the both of those guys at arm's length with the lead hand, with the jab, like he did Regis Prograis. Regis Prograis, who like those two, he's a boxer puncher. He's a counter puncher. He uses a shell guard. The same as Javante. The same as Teofimo. Stylistically, it's the same fight with a few subtle differences.
Most people don't think about it that way, but most people that watch boxing don't know boxing.
Regis Prograis is a strong puncher, a devastating puncher if he can deliver his power shots. Devin made it to where he couldn't with the jab and a half step back.
Managing the distance with the lead hand, taking a half step back whenever Regis tries to come forward.
To keep distance, to frame him and set him up for other shots.
Telling you, stylistically, it's the same fight.
A few subtle differences aside, and the fact that they are some years younger than Regis was when Devin fought him, stylistically, it's the same fight. And I believe that Devin would beat them for the same reason that he beat him.
What about Matias?
Oh, that's a very different assignment. That's a fighter with a very different style that gives you a lot less to think about.
Where Devin has the style to beat those other guys, Matias has the style to beat him.
Pure Boxer's kryptonite is the pressure fighter, with the only caveat being that Subriel Matias is several years older than Devin Haney, so time isn't exactly on his side, but his aggression, his power, his volume punching, and his willingness to take one to give one, that's what makes him a threat to Devin, that he's trying to throw 3 or 4 punches at a time. If Devin can't get his respect, and he can't keep him off, and he can't keep him out, he could be in a world of trouble.
With a Subriel Matias, with a pressure fighter, what you see is what you get. And to some people, it looks crude.
You don't get all the bells and whistles and all the fancy footwork, the sugar foot stuff. It's very direct and to the point. And against the pure boxer who wants to fight at a slow, controlled pace, only letting go of 1 and 2 shots at a time, a pressure fighter can be a fucking nightmare. I feel like Devin might actually save Subriel for last.
Because stylistically, that's the most difficult fight for Devin.
I certainly don't mind the idea of another undisputed run for Devin at 140, but this one will prove a lot more difficult than the one he had at 135.
AJ put out something today on Instagram saying he's got the call. I don't know what that was about, but I was like, what does that mean? You got the call? Like, what call? And the only person I can think of, as you just mentioned there, is Joseph Parker. But I don't know how enticing that is for Anthony Joshua. If you're Ben Davison, do you risk that, knowing that you are pretty much scheduled to fight the winner of Fury Usyk? I don't know if it's worth the risk, but they're paying a lot of money, and the kind of money they're offering, you take the risk because of that kind of money.
A second Joseph Parker fight. Not necessarily something that anyone was asking for, though, given how well Joseph Parker's been doing for himself, that he beat Deontay Wilder, that he beat Zhilei Zhang.
How long has it been?
I think it's been 5 or 6 years since their initial meeting. When they first fought, they were both unbeaten fighters, both unbeaten champions. A lot has happened since then. They're a hell of a lot more experienced now than when they met the first time. I remember their fight stylistically not really gelling, not really meshing. It felt like they were both being careful.
They had a lot to lose at that time. Their unbeaten records, their belts.
Joseph Parker, up until recently, was thought of as one of the more polite heavyweights in the heavyweight division, that he was greatly lacking killer instinct, but he put all of that to rest when he fought Deontay Wilder, as he bullied him for
Wilder's supposed to be this legendary puncher. He couldn't find his right hand.
36 minutes. Joseph Parker backed him off, pushed him back, and bullied him around. Outworked him, outfought him, and put to rest any idea that Joseph Parker ain't got no dog, that he's too polite. He's coming off a points decision win over Zhilei Zhang, showing his toughness, his grit, his durability, picking himself up off the canvas 2 times. It's a victory that for Anthony Joshua is aging well.
I remember when he fought him and when he beat him, a lot of the American fight fans didn't think much of it.
Now that he's beaten Deontay Wilder and beaten Zhilei Zhang, when Zhang was most dangerous, when Zhang was viewed as a hot potato, a high-risk, low-reward guy, Joseph Parker is getting the respect he was always due, and Anthony is getting newfound respect for having beaten him so many years ago when he was an unbeaten fighter.
But does anyone really want to see them fight here today? It's possible that they could over the summer months.
Eddie Hearn said that they're going to wait out the outcome of Fury versus Usyk to see what happens, and you guys already know how I feel about it. If Usyk wins, I don't think Fury runs it back with him if Usyk wins, but if Usyk loses,
Depending on how he loses.
if it's a decision and it's close or it's controversial, I definitely think there would be a second fight in that scenario, at which point Anthony would have to fight somebody else, and that somebody else, it could be Joseph Parker. It could be Joseph Parker over the summer months. It could be Joseph Parker in September in the UK at Wembley for what's supposed to be the second installment of Matchroom versus Queensberry. The first one's supposed to go down in June on the undercard of Better Be versus Bivol. The second one's supposed to be planned for September. And unbeknownst to most, Joseph Parker right now, he is signed to Queensberry.
Anthony's with Matchroom.
So you see the framework that could bring this fight into fruition. They are different fighters now than they were 5 or 6 years ago. More experienced fighters now than they were 5 or 6 years ago. A lot has happened since then. They're with different trainers. Anthony's not with Rob McCracken anymore. Joseph, he's not with Kevin Barry.
Anthony's with Ben Davison, and Joseph is with Andy Lee.
So maybe the amount of time that has passed and the fact that they are being trained by different trainers, that they are both more experienced fighters now than they were when they initially met, maybe that makes for a different fight that has a different aesthetic than the one we saw the first time out, maybe.
It would be for WBO interim status.
A few days ago, it was reported that the winner of the upcoming Philippe Hrgovic versus Daniel Dubois fight might then get ordered to face Anthony Joshua for what could be a vacated IBF title. This fight with Joseph offers a similar reward to that fight. This fight would be for a WBO interim title that would line up the winner to fight for the full title.
Similar benefits.
Let's face the facts here. Even if no one was really asking for Joshua versus Parker rematch, you have to remember that not that long ago, Anthony was going to run it back with Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte's anti-doping fiasco killed that rematch. It killed that fight, though, all the same. That was going to happen, so why shouldn't this?
I'm not against it.
I wasn't asking for it, and if they make it, I'm not exactly over the moon, but I don't mind it. I don't mind Joshua versus Parker, too. Worse rematches have taken place. Worse rematches have already happened.
They're both riding high. They're both on a hot streak. Joseph Parker's coming off of, 4 or 5 consecutive wins?
He's done a fantastic job the last 12 months of putting distance between himself and that knockout loss to Joe Joyce.
You know what Anthony's done? Anthony's put away 2 guys that Tyson Fury himself couldn't put away. He put away Otto Verleen and made it look easy. He put away Francis Ngannou and made it look easy.
So maybe he goes in there with Joseph Parker this time for the second time. Maybe he puts him away this time. Maybe he stops him now where he didn't stop him before, now that he's got Ben in his corner.
No, I don't mind it.